Getting the leads was not that difficult. The booking them was the real challenge at first, until I set the expectation with our dispatchers of, hey, we gotta call these people 10 times and we gotta call them within 5 minutes. Because think about the window that someone has while they're scrolling, and as soon as that period is over, they're back to work. It's really important that we get there quickly and contact them. But if we do miss that window, then it's going to take a lot of attempts till we can line up our schedules again. And so that's where the 10 attempts comes in. And I hear it all the time that on the 9th or 10th attempt, they'll be like, oh, hey, Bethany, I've been trying to get in touch with you. Thanks for following up. They're happy about it because if you think about it, we just made their life easier.
Hello, and welcome to the $1 Million Electrician Podcast, where we help home service pros like you supercharge your business and spark up those sales.
I'm Joseph Lucani, and together with my co-host, Clay Newmeyer, we're here to share the secrets that have helped electricians sell over $1 million from a single service van.
Now, it's time for sales. It's time for scale. It's time to become $1 million electrician. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another great episode of the $1 Million Electrician. We've got a great guest in Forrest Schwartz back again. Forrest, welcome back to the show. Last time, Forrest got a bit into his story, how they're doing at Kyle Electric. Then we had his partner, Andy Kyle, on the podcast, and we didn't really get to dive into too much ad stuff, Forrest. We learned a lot about the upper strategy, maybe that 30,000-foot view. But today I was hoping we could get technical, brother. How do you feel about that?
I would love nothing more. Let's do it.
We're in your ballpark, in your forest. Joseph, how you doing today, brother?
Feeling great, man. Thriving off the power of faith and caffeine. Got a list in front of me, but I'm ready to tackle it. Feeling blessed.
Nice. I'm going to put you on the spot, Joe. Can I do that?
I mean, go for it. What are you going to do?
All right. When an electrician starts talking ads in one of your classes, how does that make you feel?
Oh, it's never usually a great feeling because my specialty is I'm already in the home and I know how to sell it. But how do you get into the home is a realm outside of my expertise.
I love that, man. Great answer, because that's what we want to dive into today. And it's a big part of the metrics that you guys should be tracking. So it's not necessarily just meta ads, although that one's in the title. That's what we're going to be working on today. But it's also, there's some ads, just logic, some strategy in place here. I want to go through that in some detail today and make sure that you guys understand this at a level where you can make good ads and ads buying decisions and decide, hey, is this something that's working for me or working against us right now? And at least if this hits right, then we can help you gain the confidence to know, is my current marketer agency serving me well? Do I understand the metrics and what they're putting in front of me so much that I could make decisions around my ads? Or is this something maybe I even want to tackle myself or do more of in-house? And I think we could learn a lot of that from the discussion we talk about today. So, you guys ready to dive into this?
I'm excited. Let's make it happen.
Awesome. I think one of the topics we started with last time, but let's just tag on it again to get us rolling here, boys. This idea of like intent versus interrupt, Forrest, and what do we mean by that? Kind of help us explore that and why both are important, if you don't mind.
Yeah, the easiest way I've boiled it down to is just the idea of how they decided to do the service or not. So with intent leads, they've already decided they're doing the service. They're trying to find someone to do it for them. You don't have to convince them to do it. Whereas interrupt is where they might be open to doing it, but they haven't been convinced yet. And so part of our journey when we're talking to those leads is we need to convince them that this is something worth taking care of versus just something that are in the back of their mind. They know they might need to take care of this, but they haven't decided to take action on it. I think that's the easiest way to distinct them is have they decided to do it or not?
So if we're in their shoes, like their activities, how would you describe the difference there from their perspective?
Yeah, so intent is, electrician near me or breakers tripping, like them looking for someone to take care of a service of a problem that they know they have and they're looking for a solution. It's a matter of who's going to do it for me. Whereas the interrupt is they might know they have a problem. They might not, like some of these people with Zinsco or Federal Pacific panels, they might not even know that their panel is, blacklisted and recalled and, a big issue. They might not even know this. So if we can educate them and teach them that this is a problem and insurance companies won't cover their house if they know they have it, like then we can get them to take action and do something about it.
All right. Good explanation. Joe, feedback? Just let me in the house.
The cool thing, yeah, I'm right there with you. Give me in the home. Give me a door to knock on. But the thing I think is really cool is that when you're talking about educating the client, normally that's something where I'm like, oh, don't educate too much in the beginning. But in your statement, it makes a lot of sense because I've gone to homes where customers don't even know they have a panel. They still call it the fuse box. So letting them know, wait, it's not supposed to look like that. I've had this been fine for the past 60 years. I never had a breaker trip. Oh yeah, you don't have breakers. Okay, that's something to solve here. So I think it's a really cool point that you are doing a little bit of education at that point.
And I think a lot of people are afraid to over-educate their customer and then have them either go somewhere else or not do it at all. Try to do it themselves, maybe even, right? What do you say to that person, Forrest, or do you encounter that often?
I mean, at this stage of the game, we're just trying to educate them about the problem that they may not know they're experiencing and what they stand to gain or to lose, right? So if we're talking to go back to the Federal Pacific Zinsco panel, like if they don't even know that this is a problem to begin with, we're educating them about the risk of that. And then talking about the risk of what they have to lose is, hey, there could be a fire and you could lose some of your possessions. So just educating them about that they have an issue to take care of is different than educating them about how we're going to go about fix it.
Right.
We're just
Do you
trying to
have an opinion? Yeah, sorry, say that again.
We're just trying to get them to the table at that point.
Right. Just that awareness piece. Do you have an opinion personally on the difference between educating and scare tactics in the marketplace?
Yeah, that's a good one because I've struggled with that before of like, you don't want to fearmonger and try to scare
100%.
people. At the same time, you also need to motivate them to action. So again, just running with the same example of the Federal Pacific Zinsco panels, if we can show them that this is a risk and that they could have a fire and we save them from having that fire, isn't that something that's worth doing? So we don't want to fearmonger and say, hey, your house is going to burn down, but we also want to just say this is a risk that is out there if you don't get it taken care of. So it's a fine line, but fear is the biggest motivator for all humans. So if we can tap into that a little bit to get them to take an action that is going to benefit them, then I'm less concerned about using that.
So if I'm hearing this right, and my personal spin a little bit on this is like, it's okay to use facts and educate people on things that maybe they should healthily fear. But maybe it's the embellishment or the positioning of that in a way that would make it seem like a bigger problem than it is. Maybe that's the fine line that we're talking about. Joe, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So normally I'm opposed to the over-education for exactly this reason. I don't want to get into the home with a customer who thinks that we're trying to make them afraid. Really, I could see the gray area comes down is your angle and how you're presenting the information. Like you can say, does your panel look like this? And have a picture of it and then describe, these are the concerns that I see from it. And if you do, you can correct it before something happens. I see that as a cool thing. But if you had a picture of a panel and like an equal sign and a big fire next to it, I see that as a bad description. So it really just depends on, here's the statement, but here's the correlation. And I think that correlation, like junction, is where we have to be very, very careful. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm going to speak to Tony in the background. Hey, Tony, just cancel the ad with the panel on fire, please, and the homeowner screaming at the top of their lungs in the background. Just cancel that one. We're not going to do that anymore. No, in all seriousness, I mean, it makes sense to me. It's a tough and fine line to walk, and it's a tough topic to even discuss. But I wanted to address it just because if anyone's watching this, I mean, they're going to have that question too. Some guys go completely against it. And then there's a lot of service providers that love to lead with that 10-point inspection and actually point out and draw it in a red box, right? And show, oh, red is bad, yellow is caution, green is good. And then point that out in that way. But that really is kind of, it's the same thing. We're trying to communicate what's acceptable and what isn't. I think our intention for SLE is always and always will be to hold a higher level of standard for that communication. How can we communicate that simply in a way that doesn't make you afraid in a sense of, hey, crap, I'm sprinting away from this. These guys are pushing me into stuff that makes me uncomfortable and makes me want to call other people to test it. But rather, can we communicate this in a way that we build some trust here and you actually call us to talk about it more? I think that's the difference.
Yeah. The thing that I want to jump in on that is I feel the relevance is really the difference of whether someone feels pushed or not. Because if I'm in a room and you're asking me to look at the kitchen countertop and I noticed there's no smoke detector nearby, I walked past it and it wasn't where it was supposed to be, I can see that being very justified. And at the other time, I can see where some people do their 10-point inspections. They're outside checking the pool grounding when it's completely not connected to the thing they were called for. So as long as we can stay relevant and have hey, I'm doing this because you showed me this. I walked past it. I saw it. Was it wrong of me to bring it to your attention? Is a much stronger platform to go through than, hey, we're just going to do a whole home inspection regardless of what you asked for.
Yeah. Forrest, your thoughts?
Yeah, so going back to kind of the using the fear and presenting some of the risks, I think the more we can just state the facts, stick to the truth, and just say, this is a known risk. If you have this and this risk is present for you, here is something to consider. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm not saying it will happen. Just stating that this is the risk that's apparent. And if you want to do something about it, we can help. The more we can do that, I think the better we're going to be received.
Yep. Fair enough. Fair enough. So back to ads and what you guys are doing currently at Kyle Electric. Well, what kind of ads do you guys currently run for us?
Our top two sources right now are the LSA ads, Google Local Services. That's our number one by far. I think we get a little bit over 100 leads a month from that source. And then Facebook is probably number two. We run Meta ads. And then we do get some with SEO, but we just kind of come in organically. That's a little bit trickier to track, but as a number, those are our top three.
Okay, sweet. What do you recommend first for someone just getting in the ads game? What's the starting place for most?
Yeah, so going back to our initial opening question about intent versus interruption, I always recommend people max out their intent side before they move into the interruption side. Because again, you don't have to convince them. They're looking for the service, they're asking for it. It's an easier close, quicker sales cycle. You don't have to try to convince them along the way. They're ready to go. And so I always recommend maxing that side out before you switch over to the interrupt.
Makes sense. Have you or did you encounter kind of a limit to that intent side at first, or was it enough leads for you guys right off the bat?
No, it was a bit of a struggle at first. It took a little while. I've noticed a very strong correlation of reviews and number of leads for LSA. So the people who are less than 50 reviews, they trickle in here and there. They don't get a ton. But as soon as you get over 100 or, we're almost at 200 now, it starts to be more of like how many you want. So we spend probably $5-6 grand a month, and we could probably go more. It's just a matter of what we can handle for our sales guys. So once you start breaking into it and you get some momentum with it, because that's the other thing is they're taking a chance on you by referring you out. And so the more you've proven and shown that you're a good steward of these leads, you book them, the customers are happy, the more they're going to send you. Just like if you had a plumber that you were sending leads to, you're not going to send them all the leads on day one. You might send them one or two, test him out, see if he calls them, see if they have a good experience. And then once he's done 10 of them, you're like, all right, this guy's awesome. I'm just going to keep sending it to him.
Makes a ton of sense. I love that. It's almost like trust is the number one currency in every industry, whether you're in marketing, whether you're in service, whether you're in sales. They need to trust us just as much as we can trust them. And they need to know that we can take care of their people. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, for sure. So reputation is super important then, obviously, to build that trust. And to me, it makes perfect sense. We probably touched on this before too, how important those reviews are. Still, I don't think enough people really take full advantage of this. How important do you feel it is to really get like 100% reviews as much as possible, like close to 100% as possible?
Yeah, I would look at it like, imagine if you've ever had a car stall out and it's in neutral and you got to push it. Think about reviews as the angle of pushing that car. If you have no reviews, it's like pushing it uphill. If you have a couple reviews, it's like neutral, like flat, like it's still pretty heavy, but you can get it going. And if you got a bunch of reviews, you're going downhill. And now you're in this just trying to stop it with the brakes. But the more reviews you have, the easier of a time you're going to have to get your marketing going.
That's a cool way to look at it. I like that. Some people listening to this right now are saying, well, you didn't mention PPC. Why is that?
PPC has its place. We're actually about to break into doing some of that just because we want to get more of the demand calls because we're getting a lot of opportunity calls, but we want some more demand calls. We're going to go on that side. But it's very expensive and it's a lot more technical. So more than likely, you're going to have to hire someone to do it. So right off the bat, there's 500 to 1,500 a month, depending on who you're working with. And then on top of that, you're going to need a budget of several $1,000s a month to really see much traction. So until you have another, call it $4,000 or so that you're ready to put into marketing, it's probably not the right solution. Once maybe so say you're cracking $100,000 a month in revenue and you want to add a fourth or fifth source for leads, then by all means, I would go to that one. But until you get there, go to the stuff that's already working, that's cheaper and that is proven.
Interesting. So you're saying that if I don't have thousands a month to spend, that maybe PPC is not the best avenue.
Yep. Yeah. Because I mean, if you think about it, a lot of the people who are in that space are the PE backed guys. So you're going against much deeper pockets. Whereas like Facebook, for instance, like the barrier to entry for Facebook is a lot higher because not only do you have to spend the money, but you have to write the ads, you have to record the ads, you have to edit the ads, you have to run the campaigns, and you start getting leads. Versus if you're lazy and you have a lot of money, you just say, okay, spend $200 a day. Okay, spend $1,000 a day. Spend $2,000 a day. You're just changing the budget. That's much easier for you than going out and doing all that work. So it's a fixed pot for these PPC. There's only certain amount of clicks that have, leads to go around, and so they're bidding it up against you. So unless you want to bid out, it's like going to the auction and bidding against a guy who's got a lot of money. He's going to outbid you. Do you really want to play that game, or do you want to wait till a little later when you have some more money to spend?
Right.
Sorry, I didn't mean to jump in. I was going to say, the thing that I feel is so cool about that is it seems like that's a true testament in anything in business. If you can just throw money at the problem, that's pretty much just hitting the easy button. But if you're willing to go the extra step and say, I'm going to design it, I'm going to record it, I'm going to target my audience, you're able to get a wider berth with less money involved, but it takes more effort. So it's, do you want to pay with your time or do you want to pay with your money? I can see why avoiding the easy button is the right decision, because otherwise you're competing against people who don't really care and they can just keep raising the bid.
Yeah, in the investment world, it's called alpha. It's like how much do you get over and above the market, and our alpha is the work that we put into it, and the ability to not be afraid to get on camera.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
I like that. There's some hidden benefits to that, of course, like building an absolute rock star killer brand, which I feel is also part of your organic strategy and everything else we do, guys, on social media, to just be seen in your element, growing a company, but being a human at the same time. I love that about the meta ads play. We're going to go deeper on some of the technical stuff too, guys, but for this reason, then, Forrest, it sounds like PPC wasn't your first choice for the next set of ads to complement your LSA, but meta ads were. So you mentioned a couple of those kind of barriers to entry. How do you guys overcome that and get it rocking then?
Yep. So like I said, that difficulty is our opportunity to outperform, because we know that most people are going to do it. A statistic I like to cite for people is to ask them what percentage of people they think post regularly on social media. And you get all sorts of answers. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times they think it's like 10% or 20%. But the real number is 1%. It's actually slightly less than 1% of people actually post on social media regularly. And so that goes to the same thing with our competitors. So if we have 100 competitors in our area, one of them is posting regularly and doing content. So it's not a huge barrier, or not a huge bar to surpass. So if we're the one who steps up and does that, we're going to stand out tremendously. And I mean, Andy was just on the podcast. It happens to him all the time, where he'll be out in public and someone will recognize him from the ads. Like his mailman says, "Hey, I mean, I see your ads all the time. You're the guy on the ads." He's like, all the time people will come through and they'll remember him from the ad. When it goes into the house and closes the deal, like, "Oh, I saw your ad." Literally, we had it where "Oh yeah, I saw your ad. I went down in my basement and I had a Zinsco panel, so I called you and here you are, and we got the job." So it really does build the brand and put you out there, which is nice, because even if you're not getting say you didn't do a good job and you're not getting the leads, which has yet to happen, but just say you happen, you're still getting all those impressions. because the average CPM that we see from the video views campaigns is $4. And CPM is a fancy way of saying how much does it cost you to get 1,000 impressions. So for every 1,000 impressions, you're spending $4. So if you spend $400, that's 100,000 impressions. That's a lot of people seeing your ads.
That's serious.
Do you believe that CPM also impacts people's intent and buying decisions outside of even the parameters of just your ad scope, then your adscape, however you would say?
I do. I mean, if you look at the bigger companies, they do more of the long-term branding. You know, Coca-Cola is always like an example. But I was at a mastermind maybe a month ago, working with all companies who are $10 million plus. Biggest one was like 57 million. And all of them are looking at branding. So they're like, all right, I'm going to put $2 million into this campaign or $1 million into TV or radio. They're not doing the direct response because they're big enough to where they don't have to. But they're looking at it from that perspective of branding. So if we can do direct response and branding at the same time, that's a pretty nice combo.
I'd say for sure. So the CPM's adding to our authority, it's adding to our brand, but it also, a certain number of those views you would hope then are actually clicking. If someone's watching this and they're wondering some of the basic meta ads questions, how to set this up, do I go to a landing page? Do I go to an opt-in funnel? Lead capture form, I guess, is another way to say that. What are you doing currently that works best, or what are your thoughts around that?
So I'm going to preface this and say that I do this all day, every day. So if I get a little too technical or skip over steps, or you're like, wait, what's that? Just let me know and I'll explain. But the way that we do it is we do a 3-tier campaign. So we do a top of funnel, which is the problem awareness. I think we talked about that a little bit last time. We're trying to show them the problem that they have. Again, the Zinsco panel example. If you have this panel, this is a hazard. It also will point out symptoms, like if you have tripping breakers or things that go out when you plug other appliances in. We're trying to call attention to the problems or symptoms that they're experiencing so they can identify with the issue. So that's the first layer of the campaign. That is in Facebook, you have 3 different levels of a campaign, an ad set, and an ad. This is a separate campaign. This is the highest level. One campaign is going to be a video views campaign. And so with the campaign, it has one objective, like what's it trying to optimize for? Mm-hmm. For this first one, we're trying to optimize for video views. We want as many people as possible to see this. Okay. We will likely get no leads from this. Mm-hmm. We're just trying to get it out there. We want to get people to watch the video and feel that they have the problem. And the reason we're doing this is because the CPM is much, much cheaper. So when you do a video views campaign, your CPM is usually around $4. If your ads are really good, you might get closer to $3. But $4 for 1,000 views, if you switch it to a lead campaign, your CPM becomes closer to $30, sometimes $40. So
wow. Okay, let me pause you and warn you here. I'm judging how well you instruct this based on Joe's expressions right now.
It's accurate.
You guys are following on YouTube. This is the teach a sales guy marketing moment. Yeah. So Joe, I hope you're paying attention because you are going to be validation for Forrest in this one. So far, what I heard is you're talking about kind of top of funnel video views being much cheaper than actually trying a conversion tactic of getting them to click on something. Is that what you heard, Joe?
I heard a 10x difference, which blew my mind. It's like, this one is $4 and this one is $40. And wait, my brain heard that was big X. It's like, no, figure out why. Why is it $40? Why is it not $4? Because if I can go $4 for 1,000, I'll hit that button every day. So what's the big difference? Like, why would it cost that much more?
So that's the campaign type. So Facebook is optimizing to show your ads to as many people as possible versus they're optimizing your ads to get someone to fill out a form.
That makes a lot of sense. I can imagine if you're going to want to fill out a form, people are going to be less than those who just can like visually see and move on from it.
Exactly. Yep. So we're trying to start out by casting a wide net.
I was going to say, isn't it amazing how effort, no matter how small it is, could be one of the biggest barriers to entry? Like, we often, when we do our review process, a lot of times what we can also do in the process is we actually say, I'll stay with the customer. I'll send you the link right now and I'll be present the whole time. That way, if there's any inconveniences, I can solve it for you while we're here. And you won't have to go online and find it or look it up. And most people are like, oh, yeah, all right, I'll write it right now then if you could do that. compared to them saying, I'll do it, and then never doing it because they don't want to log in their email because they forgot their password and they won't be willing to look for it. Amazing.
Mhm. Yeah. Just a tiny little bit makes all the difference.
Amen.
All right, we paused you. Go ahead, Forrest. Jump back into this with us. So form fill.
Form fill is going to be the next stage of the second campaign. So top of funnel, video views, $4 CPM, wide net, show these problem symptom ads to as many people as possible. The middle of funnel, also known as solution stage, is where we're talking about the solution that it fixes the problem we just talked to them about.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times for panel upgrades, we're saying, hey, we're going to get it done by the time you get home for dinner or back from work. We're going to have a backup generator so none of your stuff turns off. We will take care of the drywall, the stucco, all that stuff, permits, all that will take care of you. And it's going to be done all in one day. You're not going to have a mess lying around for multiple days. So we're kind of talking about the solution of what that looks like. And then those ads are retargeting people who watched the first video. So the people who watch, the nice thing about video views is Facebook tracks how long you watch the video. So if you watch the whole video, they're like, this person's really interested. So let's show them that next video. So it's called retargeting. And we retarget anyone who watches more than 3 seconds of the first video. To us, 3 seconds says there's some level of interest here. Because if you think about how much people don't watch, they might watch 1 second and scroll, no interest. But if you sit there for a full 3 seconds, there is some level of interest. And it's 3 or more. It could be 30. But anything more than 3 seconds, we say something is interesting to them. Let's show them the next one about the solution of how we fix the first one. So I'll stop there.
Just to be clear, like in 2026, which is where we're heading, we're almost there, coming to the end of November at this time. 3 seconds is becoming a long time when you're talking about 2 thumbs scrolling a couple miles a day on average. 3 seconds is a game changer. Yeah, I don't stop 3 seconds for nothing. And I bet you a lot of the people you guys know out there are the same way. So I think that's really wise. I just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah, it blew my mind.
Yeah, so
you guys are able to target it to that extent. Love it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we use that so that we're only, because remember, this is up to 10 times as much as expensive for that CPM. So we want to save it for only people who are interested, because then we're taking that more expensive impression and we're saving it for someone who has shown some level of interest. That's the efficiency. And now I do caveat. Go ahead.
If I can. What are your thoughts on kind of the iOS updates and how they're kind of blocking some of these different tracking mechanisms that would allow you to retarget? Has that been something that slowed you down at all, or don't worry about it, just plow forward, or what are your thoughts there?
Without getting too technical, it was definitely it was a challenge, but this is 3-4 years ago. It was a challenge because it was all the tracking was on the browser side, which is easy. You can get a lot more context from that. And now everything is switched to the server side. So Facebook has something called the Conversion API, or CAPI as we call it. And it's a way to feed on the back end on the server side to confirm actions that are taken. So without getting diving too deep, we pretty much come up with a solution around it. It was nice when we had the browser side.
Awesome. Thank you for that.
The caveat I have for the retargeting is that usually with the amount of money we're willing to spend in the compressed time period, that we aren't able to fill up that retargeting pool as much as we'd like, because we might show it to 100,000 people, but only 10,000 people watch the 3 seconds or more. And so if we're only showing our ads to the 10,000, that's kind of small of a pool. So if you remember what I talked about, the campaign level, and then the ad set level, and then the actual ad level. So the ad set is kind of like holding a couple ads, and we'll throw in a few what I call open ad sets, where we can go outside of that retargeting pool to just some people who we think might be interested in this, just to get enough volume. Otherwise, we're constricted to this like 10,000 people, and it's just not quite enough to get the results we want. So I'll usually throw maybe 1/2 to 1/3 of the ad sets are going to be open, with a few restrictions. Like we want to do 50% or more income. Typically, we want to do like 35 and up for age. We want to get more of a homeowner. And I found that the top half of income and people over 35 are much more likely to own a home.
Are those the only two metrics that you'll use based on for refining demographic and interest sets, or have you tried some other interest sets as well to kind of help with that with Kyle Electric?
We've played around with a few, but they haven't made a huge difference. We do a 40-mile geography, a 40-mile radius from headquarters for the geo. But those are the main two, just age and income.
You know, the thing that stood out to me there was 35, because I'm sitting there, I'm like, wait, our age is being targeted? Usually you're like, oh, they're targeting to more adultier adults. It's like, wait, we're the adults now that have the money? Okay, time out. I was not ready to get handed the reins. What's going on here?
Wait, do you have money?
It's like, wait, what?
Are we supposed to have money?
Oh, man, I've been doing the wrong thing for too long.
Yeah, I think I just read today the median homeowner age is 61
Ugh.
in the U.S. I don't know about Canada, but in the U.S.
It makes sense. It's a sad metric, but it makes sense.
So we tend to skew high.
Yeah, I guess in my mind, you just kind of put me moonshot into another direction there, and I'll be careful. But what did you call it? The silver tsunami? With all the baby boomers retiring? I guess that means there'll be a lot of homes handed down with equity plays as well.
Most likely. Yeah, handed down. I know that there's a lot of downsizing as well, where they sell the house and get a smaller one. But yeah, it's definitely a moving demographic. Like it's going to be a big trend of, I think, services going forward. Anything you can do to help service those people, because I think the net worth allocation is by far in a way higher for the boomers. If you look at a graph, I think it's like half or more. So anything you can do to service them is going to make you some money.
I mean, the equity is a no joke, though. I mean, you bought your house for 5 cents and a bagel. I mean, it makes sense that you're going to be able to turn value on it. You know, so I get it.
Right.
Definitely good to target them.
Exactly.
All right. So you get these leads. How much are you getting a lead from these campaigns for Kyle Electric?
Anywhere. So for us, I think we're $22 for panel leads. We've really done this mostly for panels just because it's worked. It's a high ticket, and I haven't experimented with other ones just because I've been, once something works, I just try to run with it as much as I can. So I think we spent a little under $4,000, maybe $3,900, and got 175 leads, and it worked out to about $2,200. Wow.
Okay. And what period have you done that?
I think we started in June, late June, early July is when I started doing this. And it to get to this level where I'm talking about today, it took a few months to really dial in the system. There were a couple of breakthroughs that we figured out. And once we got that, then it's been game on.
Okay. So it's worthwhile at this point for you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Cost per lead, pretty reasonable, it sounds. What goes into then getting that lead to an appointment, and what do you see for kind of fall off there between your cost per lead and your cost per appointment booked?
Yeah, so this was our biggest challenge early on because we were treating them like the intent leads. So we were treating like a LSA lead that came in and you answer the phone and you book it because they're ready to go. Whereas this is totally different. I think maybe last time we talked about the buyer's pyramid, but if not, I'll do a quick recap. At any given point, there are 3% of a market who are ready to buy now. And that's what the PE guys with the PPC and the LSA and the SEO, all those people are fighting over that same 3% who want to buy today. But below that, 7% of the market is open to buying. And they're people who can be convinced or shown that this is an issue that they should take care of. They're open to buying. They take a little bit longer because you got to go through that educational cycle. It's not like they decided that they wanted to do it. So the sales cycle is much longer. But the flip side of that coin, the positive side, is that your shelf life is longer. So think about if you don't answer the phone for one of these LSA leads, what are they going to do? They're calling the next guy. See ya, I'll find the next guy. He'll take care of it. Whereas with these ones, if you don't get to them quickly or you aren't able to make contact with them right away, they're not going to go to someone else. They've just begun to talk about it. Go ahead, Joe.
Operation Educated Sales Guy has definitely made an next leap because I see an immediate correlation to the options process where you're like, okay, you've got someone who wants to buy immediately. That makes sense. But the reason why options work is they didn't understand they had a problem. They weren't aware of it, or maybe they did know, but didn't know the extent of it. They didn't know that the solutions would be feasible. And here you are presenting and educating. They're like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. I'm willing to proceed with that. It seems like that's exactly what you're doing as well. I'm educating enough to make them cross that bridge. You're then showing them the benefits of crossing the bridge and then giving them a path to do so. I love it. I think it's absolutely brilliant.
It's working so far.
All right.
Yeah. So
one of the other brilliant things, if I could just throw in there quick, is that we had this discussion a while back, Joe, and you see electricians do this to try to drum up leads. Forrest, it'd be interesting to hear your opinion on this too. But there's a lot of electricians in service who default to offering free inspections as a way to try to get leads in the house. And my biggest beef with this tactic is, A, it's severely discounted and really bleeds you out. You're hoping that you find something, and the homeowners know this.
Yeah.
They know that you're looking for stuff to fix. There's very, very few, basically the intent leads, the people that are thinking, and probably they're boomers too, thinking, well, we could use some home upgrades anyways. So let's go ahead and allocate some budget. And they're thinking that before they call. But also from your service technician's perspective, these are some of the hardest calls to do, because even if they welcome the inspection to just learn, they're not problem aware at all. So you have to take them from problem aware to solutions aware and then create a buyer, all in the process of a visit. And it's too big of a gap. The sales cycle is not meant to be that short. So it's very unproductive, I've found personally.
I think the additional thing, though, is also the scarcity deflation. Because as something becomes more scarce, it becomes more valuable. And if we're willing to say, I'm going to offer free inspections, there's no charge, I'll show up, I'll do the whole home evaluation, I'll design solutions, and they haven't asked for it, or there's no relative, like it's not a Christmas bonus, it's not something that's happening, you don't have a specific reason to do it, community give back day, like there's no reason to do so, you seem like you're desperate. And as a result, if you're desperate, you don't command the right to have a premium price. If anything, there should be a higher barrier to get someone into the door. And that would make someone motivated to do it, because they're like, wow, if I have this guy come in, that's a rare thing. All right, let's invest in that. That doesn't happen all the time.
For sure. So from a service person's perspective, salesperson, service, whatever, you're a safety specialist, you're going to someone's house knowing they have a Zinsco, knowing exactly why they called. It's already out. And that's a gift all day, every day. That's a call I want to run.
I'd agree with you there.
Have you seen anyone against that yet, Forrest?
No, so I've seen pretty much zero correlation between mentioning like a free inspection in the ad and them asking for it. So like we've never had someone, where's my free inspection? Like when they fill out the form, there's a field that we put in there about the issue they're having, and we just address that. Like they're not calling us because of free inspection. And sometimes we say it, sometimes we don't. But they never even ask twice about it. So we'll just address the problem that they brought up, like the dispatcher will.
Fair enough. So to go more technical then, we're seeing this works. You said 4K. That's a relatively low investment. Earlier you said, hey, PPC, a lot of times we'd be advised to spend thousands a month to get a reasonable result. You spent $4,000 in like 4 months, 4.5 months, 5 months maybe.
Yeah.
And you got great results, 120 leads. You've said you learned from how to treat them more like not the intent, but the interrupt leads that they are. You mentioned shelf life. And what you meant by that, I perceived, was that we can continue to reach out to these people until it is a fit, essentially. I know some electricians really struggle with this barrier. How do you guys justify the continual follow-up it sometimes takes to continue this conversation and move things across the line?
Yeah, I'd say this was probably the most difficult part of this journey. Getting the leads was not that difficult, but booking them was the real challenge at first, until I set the expectation with our dispatchers of, hey, we got to call these people 10 times, and we got to call them within 5 minutes. And at first it took a lot of kind of, nagging, for lack of a better word, where I'm just on them all the time, because they come into our Slack. And as soon as they come in, I would tag them and say, hey, do you got this one? And after doing that for like 3 months, they finally kind of do it on their own now. So, but that was the biggest challenge, is that they wouldn't call them fast enough, because think about the window that someone has while they're scrolling. They're either in the restroom or, doing something like in between tasks. And as soon as that period is over, they're back to work. They're back in the car. Like you kind of lost that period. So it's really important that we get there quickly and contact them. But if we do miss that window, then it's going to take a lot of attempts till we can line up our schedules again. Like think about how busy people are. Think about when you're trying to schedule something with someone and you're trying to make those calendars work. It's really no different than when we're calling them and we're just guessing, saying, hey, does this work? Does this work? Does this work? And usually the answer is no. They're usually busy. And so that's where the 10 attempts comes in, is like, if we give them 10 different potential appointment times, I bet we can connect on one of them. And I hear it all the time. My dispatcher tells me that very frequently, that on the 9th or 10th attempt, they'll be like, "Oh, hey, Bethany, I've been trying to get in touch with you. Thanks for following up." They're happy about it, because if you think about it, we just made their life easier. Because otherwise, they got to start from scratch, call another electrician, try to book an appointment, and go through all that rigmarole. But instead, now they just press the green accept button, and they get to take care of their problem. Joe, you said you're a big list guy. They get to cross that off their list now, just by pressing the green accept button.
The best invention for lists was the one where they had the ability, I think Google made with Google Notes, where you can cross the list off, and instead of being removed from the list, it adds a gray little line over it and blurs it out. And that is the most satisfying list moment right there.
Mm-hmm. So we're giving people that by reaching out multiple times. We're giving that to people.
And I think I drew a parallel as you were saying this, and maybe this helps. Joe, you ever been kind of pissed at a situation or someone, something upset you, but then you go for a walk and afterwards you're not upset so much to leave a bad review or to even call them again or to message or anything like that. It's just like, yeah, c'est la vie. We'll just let sleeping dogs lie, I think is the expression, right?
You know, I'm a weird one, because I will almost always write the 5-star review, but it takes a lot. It takes so much anger to write the bad review, because as someone who's owned businesses before, I know what a blow that is and how dangerous that can be for someone's brand. So like, you've got to really fuck up. Like, for lack of better words, you got to really, really mess up and make me feel bad or underserve me to the extent where I'm like, I don't care about the repercussions, 1 star, and here's why.
Yeah. So if you guys have ever had like a Happy Gilmore moment like that and you realize, the emotion kind of fades after some activity. Well, what Forrest, I think you're saying is like the activity was already planned. They may have only paused for a moment. It might have been a coffee break, a porcelain throne date, whatever it was. They go back to movement in their life, and the emotion of what they just witnessed, the reason they fill out the form, actually fades a bit. And so it's the right thing to do to continue to follow up and to continue to have them see your videos even in that CPM placement, because there was a reason they got emotional in the first place. That part didn't go away. It's still on their honey-do list. That's kind of what I'm hearing. How does that set for us?
Exactly. Like I said, we're doing them a favor by making it easier for them to cross that item off their list. And the only way to do that is to follow up multiple times. And now, don't get me wrong, if they say they're not interested, we don't call ever again. But we're just assuming that we haven't found a good time to connect until that point. We're just assuming, okay, they were busy. On the 10th time, we connect. Awesome. Let's go.
The thing you said right now, I think, is one of the biggest things that someone can take away from, where you're like, if they show that they're not interested, we don't continue to bother them. And the reason being is I literally have a plumbing company that I've already fired. Like, I've called them. I do not want to work with you. Do not call or text me. And every week I could still pull up and be like, hey, your free plumbing inspection is here. Don't you want us to come by and check your whole system? Only takes 45 minutes. Like, fuck off. I don't want you here. Leave me alone. So I'm glad to know that you're not that person. That makes me so happy.
No, we're only doing those follow-up attempts if there's just no answer.
Awesome.
Our goal, just like we talked about in the process, is just clearer futures, more sleep at night, right? It's not actually about assaulting people. It's about making sure their needs are understood. It's the same reason we don't email it over. The quote, that is, right? Same reason we want to come back and just have a conversation, make sure your questions are answered. So we know for sure what is the reasonable next step. That's so, so important. Just clearer futures.
Amen.
So yeah, can appreciate that part of this. So that's the next thing you mentioned. It gets in the way. Once we break that down, now it seems like we're finally to just electricians in homes doing that thing that we train electricians to do.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. So I like to, and actually, before we do that, let me close the loop, because we didn't talk about the third stage of the third campaign, which is also conversion, the lead campaign. Same thing, retargeting the people who watched the first 2 sets of videos. And that one is the product awareness, just to close that loop. That's when you talk about your company and your years of experience, your Google reviews, why you're the best company to hire. The problem that I see a lot of people do when they try to do Facebook ads is they want to start with that one and say, we're the best, buy our shit, as I like to say. Like they're trying to, you're just promoting yourself. And the problem is if you haven't shown them the problem that they have, you haven't presented a solution, then why should they give a crap about you and your company? They're like, cool story, bro. I'm going to keep swiping and looking at the stuff that I like. Whereas if you've shown them the problem and they realize that there's an issue, you've shown them how you're going to fix it, it's only logical that you say that, hey, we're the best person to do this for you. And so that's why we save that for the end. And then that typically is your best performing campaign of the three. Not always, but usually that's the best one because you've done that educational process, you've taught them, and now you're just saying, hey, we'll take care of it for you. Here's why you should pick us.
And that's what you call the bottom of funnel then. Sorry for
Correct.
skipping you there.
Yep, bottom of funnel, product awareness. We use them interchangeably on our team.
Okay. So on that ad, you're literally going to show more of your logo, specifics about your brand, maybe even some background story?
Yeah, you could do all of the above. Background story, credibility, authority. You just want to show, it's making your case for why you're the best choice.
Okay. Really cool. What is your now compared to LSA? What is this campaign? How does it compare? What does it look like as far as cost per lead and cost per appointment booked, if you don't mind me asking?
So the cost per lead is less, but the cost per appointment is about the same because we don't book quite as many of them. So in anything, as Thomas Sowell say, there's no such thing as benefits, only trade-offs. And so we're basically trading off lead volume for lead quality, or just people who are ready, because these sales cycles tend to be 2 to 3 times as long. Because again, they're not ready to buy today, but they're open to buying. So sometimes we'll get a lead and 3 or 4 weeks later, we'll get the sale, not right away. But the cost per appointment is very similar. Like I said in the beginning, booking them was a challenge because we were treating them like the SEO or the LSA leads. So our booking rate was low. It was like 20 or 30. But after working with our team and really dialing it in and setting that expectation, now we're closer to like a 40% book rate on those, whereas LSA is 60, I want to say. So the cost per appointment, I think for LSA last month for us was 86. I'm looking at it now, $86.66 to get into the house. Okay. And for Facebook, it was 112.
Okay. So not too far off.
No. Yeah. Our target is 100 to 110 is where we want to be. That's, if we can get it for less, great. But usually we see, 110 or less.
Nice.
Awesome. Really cool. And so then you're able to get in the home, et cetera, run the play. Finally, I can loop that in there without cutting you off. From the meta ads, and we haven't talked about this yet, have you made some sales out of those leads?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'd say about 40 or 50 grand.
Okay. So you spend about $4,000. You're close to about a 10x return on ad spend then.
Yep. Yeah, that's always our target. If we're not getting that, we're trying to figure out why.
I think you mentioned in a past episode, if not, we'll plug it here. What do you think is the most important metric to track regarding these ads?
Sure. So I look at it kind of differently from being on both sides, like being the person who generates the lead as the agency, as well as being the business owner who has the electrical company. I've had a good experience to seeing both sides and who should be accountable for what. For the marketing, really at the end of the day, they should be responsible for the cost per lead because that is really all that they can control. After that, the booking rate is up to the company. And so, I mean, I'm the company, so that helps. But the ROAS is what we tend to default to. So what's my return on ad spend, or what's my investment that I get, my return on investment. The issue with that is it doesn't tell the full story because there's 3 stages of this cycle that are going to determine that ROAS. And if one of them is broken, you can't blame it on the other 2. So if your cost per lead is good and your booking rate is good, meaning your cost per appointment is good, but your conversion rate is low, which means that your ROAS stinks, whose fault is that? Is that marketing's fault? Is that Facebook is not a good lead source? Or is there someone who needs to get into some more calls with Joe?
Whereas I feel like
go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to plug. I feel like you could say the opposite just to be the acid test for that too. is there a way I could improve ROAS without affecting or changing my ads effectively? And
Yeah.
that's what I'm hearing when you say that too. It's not just why did we suck, but holy crap, could we improve it without even doing anything to the ads? And it
Yeah.
sounds like unequivocally yes, right? Sales process, conversion.
Yeah. My question is always where is it broken? So if the ROAS or our return on our ad spend is not where we want it to be, let's figure out which of those stages is broken, because it's almost never all three, and it's almost never two. It's almost always one. So if our cost per lead is out of whack, okay, marketing, maybe we need a different channel. Maybe we're not running good ads. We got to fix that. But if our cost per lead is good, that means that marketing is doing its job. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just simply saying that's another reason why I feel running a process is so important. Because if you have, like, say, a bunch of A players winging it, and they're top tier, how and where is it breaking? Because you don't have a process to diagnose to figure out where it's going wrong. That's why I love having one, because if you say, okay, let's say I'm not converting. Well, where is it falling apart? Is it your presentation? Is it your option design? Is it your commitment levels? Is it like, what have you done? So I love that it just kind of clicks where you're like, you need this in order to measure that. In order to measure that, you need the next step too. So all three kind of like interlock.
Yeah, it's a chain. And anytime the chain is broken, the whole thing is going to suffer. So you have to have the whole thing. So we're always looking at which one of these is broken. So like I was saying, as far as for marketing channels or your marketing in general, your cost per lead is the best indicator of that. And depending on, if you're coming from the agency side or the business owner side, then it's going to determine if the booking is a part of that, the booking rate. So, from our side, the booking rate, we typically want that to be 50% or more if possible. So if we're getting leads at a great cost, but our booking rate is 20%, that's going to be really tough to make it work. So that's where I don't like to say, like, if someone says, hey, this is not working, these leads are crap, it's like, okay, let's dial down and say which one of these three is broken and how do we fix it? And then once we know which one's broken, we can go over best practices and say, all right, well, hey, sales is down. We need to get them in some classes. Are you running the process? Are you doing all the things you're supposed to do? If the booking rate is down, all right, are you calling them within 5 minutes? Are you following up 10 times? Like, wherever it's broken down, we're going to run a play and fix that. And so I'd say of this whole journey, that's maybe the most important loop that we've figured out is how to fix that instead of just saying, oh, that didn't work, I'm going to try something else. Because how many times do we hear that? It's like, oh, LSA doesn't work for me, or Angie's ad sucks. Okay, well,
Yeah.
Are you calling within 5 minutes? The answer is always no.
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback on this and say there's actually two well-known and documented things that affect this. And one of these is actually the path of least resistance is what I'm looking for. And this affects humans as well in conservation of energy. Literally, we're programmed biologically to avoid big efforts that aren't seen as essential. But the problem is that we also have a bias that kind of shows us that we've already done work, and that conservation of energy makes us not want to go deeper on that work because we haven't seen any fruit from it yet. It's the equivalent of our caveman uncle digging a hole to find an apple, and there was no apple 4 inches deep, but truly they were actually 6 inches deep. And so the same thing, these same principles apply in process. And what Forrest is saying, and if you were shocked by a 50% booking rate at all, keep in mind, like, we're talking about potential 8 to 10K average ticket leads here. These are people that want panel replacements or service upgrades, right? Like, this is not a $200 demand call. These are big things. So keeping that in mind, when you refine your process, and it helps to have extra eyes on it, highly recommend grabbing a strategy call with Forrest if you guys are interested in that. The link is down below. But having extra eyes will show you past your own bias of, I did everything, this doesn't work. And what will happen as a result, you'll find the other 4 or 5 ways to improve that metric, and it will improve across your entire company because of the work you do in your worst area. That's something that I've observed, and it's a bit of a miracle in business. It sometimes takes that outside perspective, though.
Totally. Yeah, the theory of constraints, it was an eye-opener. It's just saying, like, the bottleneck in your business is the thing that's holding it back, not the other items. The potential doesn't mean anything. until you fix that one item and open up, like a factory is a good example. So say there's one stage of the factory that's holding and backing up the rest of the factory. It doesn't matter how much more you're putting through, it's all going to get backed up in that one place until you can remove that constraint, and then the throughput goes, and then you just find the next bottleneck.
Yeah, I love that. Recently, we're going to try to wrap this up. I know we're a bit over time, guys. Thank you for your patience with this. Recently, I had a mentor tell me, it was a bit of a finance background like Forrest. And he said, look, there's two elements of control you can have in your business. You can control your expenses, but we all know there's a limit to that. At some point, if you want to do 100K plus months, I mean, you're going to be spending somewhere between 50, 60, 70K a month in your bills. That's just what it is. OpEx, cost of goods sold. It is what it is, right? You have to spend. You can't at some point reduce your guys' wages so they don't work for you anymore. Mm-hmm. Or the other area was income control. And what I love about this podcast and this focus is that if you can figure these pieces out, then it's essentially infinite. Because if you have all these ads areas working for you, like Forrest said, 4 or 5 channels working for you, then you're talking hundreds of leads a month. And we've seen it work up to 300 plus leads a month, and have this ability to hit 300K, 500K, heck, even $1 million a month companies. It's infinite. And even if you max out in an area, then there's always, well, let's just do what works again and copy and paste over in the next service area over, or in the next state over. And guys can do this again infinitely. So where cost control is limited, income control is unlimited. And if you figure these things out, then the world is your oyster, and you get to make this as big as you can possibly handle. Forrest, any thoughts on that and closing comments for you today on the podcast?
No, I mean, I think you nailed it. You know, there's only so much you can cut. If you want to build a big company, you got to find ways to get more leads. You know, we see we like to do it from the ratio. So what is the ratio of things that we're spending? And for us, marketing, we want to get around 10%. So we did 110,000 last month. So we want to spend 11,000. We spent that exactly on the dot. That's our reinvestment to keep the machine running. So without that, we could keep, trying to save quote unquote money. We're not really saving anything. We're just making a smaller business. Mm-hmm. So once you figure out, what you can afford to spend, and I think you guys do a really good job of this, is figuring out your average ticket and your average opportunity. That's what's going to tell you how much you can afford to spend on these leads. So you just do the math backwards and say, all right, anything I can do that's below this, for example, say for someone it's $60, I can get $60 a lead and still make money. Anything you can do below that point is golden. So don't worry if you're getting, 60 instead of 20, you're still making money, and you're just trying to get better as you go. But you got to be willing to reinvest in the business to grow. That's the only way.
Absolutely. Joe, any closing comments, brother?
I'd say there's a lot I learned as a whole, but the thing that just keeps sticking out more and more is that in every industry, doesn't matter what it is, doesn't matter what you're selling, what you're trying to design, the biggest barrier to entry being effort is just really just such a game changer. If we can understand how to systemize it to make it easy to buy, how it's easy to move forward, how it's easy to click the form, the results are going to be exponentially higher than even if you put the smallest of barriers into place. So Forrest, thank you for confirming, what I felt. It's very validating.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Really cool, guys. We've got this 30-day sprint spreadsheet that you guys can grab below, whether you're watching on YouTube, listening on the podcast, etc. And of course, if you want help reverse engineering this, figuring this out, go ahead, click and book a strategy call with Forrest to see what ads could look like for you. But also another link below, electricserviceapp.com, where you can sign up and join us in the app for even more great ideas, even more help reverse engineering this, and of course, getting your process down so you can make the most of all these leads. Thank you guys very much. We'll see you again next week on the $1 Million Electrician Podcast.
Take care, friends. Be blessed.